Hello, hello. This is the first time for me, guys, streaming on YouTube, so just bear with me here as I get things set up a little bit. While we wait, we can go ahead and get the aircraft aligning. Is there sound for you guys now? Awesome. All right, this is kind of weird. I gotta set up my monitor here so I can see you guys in the chat and my game at the same time. It's kind of cool. This is the Toliss A319 today. Go ahead and get my FS economy going here. I'm gonna tell it's at 321. Nobody has to know. All right, guys. So yeah, welcome to the stream. We're gonna take this is kind of a trial run. I haven't done a YouTube stream before. We're gonna do the Toliss A319. I'm gonna revisit that. I haven't been flying the Airbus much lately in Xplane. I've been obsessed with some GA aircraft and the King Air and TBM, things like that. So we're just going to do a quick little flight. I'm going to use this stream as kind of a test bed to see how audio and video and everything works. So if you got any questions, though, feel free to drop them there in the comments. I'll see if I can answer them for you. We're just doing a simple flight today from Las Vegas, Nevada. That's Kilo Lima Alpha Sierra down to Phoenix, Arizona. Also going to be flying over some of my new ortho scenery that I had installed. Alright, so let's get everything going here. That's aligning. Come back to the overhead. What's the temperature in here? I know we're in Las Vegas. It's a little bit toasty. Yeah, it's already 27 degrees in the cabin. Let's get the APU fired up. Waiting for the APU to conduct its self-test. There we go. Go ahead and fire it up. All right. Get the aircraft McDo setup here, and it is McDo. I know MCDU is a way the Boeing guys say it, but here in the States and pretty much every Airbus guy that I know, we refer to the box as the McDo. So I've received some comments of guys saying, it's not McDo, it's MCDU. I'm like, well, as silly as it sounds, we actually call it the McDo. And trust me, when I first heard that, I didn't like the sound of it either. So just something you got to get used to. Let's see, we're going to kind of making up a flight. We're going to go as NKS 357. It'll be Spirit Wings. We're in that wonderful yellow Spirit livery today, a low-cost carrier here in the United States, but they got a nice HD livery for the Toliss 319, so I do like using this this paint scheme here. We're going to go cost index 99. We'll be flying on VATSIM or Pilot Edge. Yeah, you know, I might end up starting to get back into that. I haven't done any of that stuff since FSX, but we'll see. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate the love. It's been a while since I've done any videos here, but I figured I'd do a live stream because I'm starting to miss Xplane a little bit. All right, pulling up the flight plan here. Let's see, we're going to be going at pretty low altitude. Let's go 30. That might be too high. 27. And we kind of line on ref. Alright, we're going to take off of runway. Let's get the air going in here before I do that. Yeah, it's already 28C in the cabin. Hopefully that'll start to cool it down. You can see the outflow of the air. This is the condition, this is the temperature of the air coming out of the packs, and it is bringing the cabin down. You can see the cockpit's already down 23. Very good. I wish it worked that fast in real life, but same effect. Alright, we're going to take off of runway 25 right on the, what departure we got here? We're going off the Perfum 4 or Perfum 3. I know my nav database is out of date here. Gonna insert that. And I literally just went on FlightAware and picked a flight going between Phoenix and Las Vegas, and I'm using the same exact route. Let's see, Wotoro. It's Whiskey Oscar Tango Oscar Romeo. Whoops. Oops. And then we should enter into Phoenix. We're going to land on runway 8 on the Bruiser 1. No approach via, but we're going to use the transition here of Wotoro. So if you're wondering where I'm getting all these, like I said, I went on FlightAware. I picked a real flight that was going between the two airports. And what's up, Jungles? All right, insert that. Now we can step through our flight plan here. Going off 25 right. That's so weird because in real life they resurveyed the airport. Now it's I believe it's 26. 26 left and right. So when I see 25 right, I get confused here. Should have the constraints on so we can see. So it is a RNAV SID. It does have quite a few constraints on it there. Roper at or below 7. Caesar above 8. Hit me above 11. Caddy above 200. and then we drop right into, we have one en route fix. Actually, we don't. This is one of those flights where it's so short where you go straight from the departure right into an arrival route. So, NASA, I know you were wondering about this the other day. This flight is short enough to where there's a departure procedure that leads right into an arrival. So there are actually no en route fixes other than the end of the star, and then I start the end of the SID and the beginning of the star into the arrival airport. Bruiser, it's a big RNAV all the way back down into the ILS 8 into Phoenix. Now there is a discon here, and that is normal. We're going to leave that because that just separates the end of the arrival and the approach itself. And we can see our missed approaches in there. Okay, so our flight plan's in there. Can't do the secondary in the Toliss, unfortunately. Rad nav, nothing to hard tune. I'm going to go ahead and just, for redundancy though, because there is a special procedure for a single engine if you lose an engine off of runway 25 right. And it's based on a DME from Las Vegas VOR. So, as in the real world, I'm going to hard tune Las Vegas, so I'll be able to get DME right here, Las Vegas hard tune. It won't change out on me until I clear it manually. So the rad nav is set up. Initialization page 2. Go up here to the ISCS. Let's get our weights. Alright, so we are 56.3, 0 fuel weight. Our block is our block fuel, which is our fuel on board, which you can see here. I've minimized it, but our fuel on board is 7.6. And we can see we have our final time, 30 minutes extra. We are good to go. Landing weight 61.8. Just getting a little extra bearing distance. And now our perf data. We're going off of runway 25 right, so if I pull up my airport chart here, just want to make sure there is no slope. I actually believe there is a slope, but might be negligible here. Yeah, we're just going to leave it at 0. So our V speeds are 152, 152, 155. Going flaps 1. Flexing to 68. Alright, so our perf is set. Everything else is set there. Let's get the aircraft ready to go. Alright, that's all on. Overhead flow is done. We'll go ahead and disconnect the external power. And squawking today of 2545. Put that in transponder mode. Let's get ready for push.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Alright, we are just about ready. Let me pull up my checklist here. Alright, for start checklist, doors and windows are closed and arm. Beacons coming on. Thrust levers idle. Parking brake is set. Transponder is in transponder mode for start checklist complete. Let's go ahead and call for push. I really wish that Toliss would, what am I trying to do here? Here we go, start pushback. I really wish that Toliss would incorporate, like when you press the ground control.
Tow is driving up.
You know, you can call like the mechanic here or something that would pull up your pushback, or if you pull up the ISCS screen instead of having to go through the menus, but it is what it is. Interesting that there are a bunch of United planes here. They should be on the other side of the airport. Oh well. Exams on the 2nd of July.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
That's ages from now, man. You should be flight simming. Vegas ground, Spirit 357, push off of Delta 25. I'd say, okay, push Delta 25, call me back for taxi.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Brakes released, clear to push, tail in the alley.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Alright, well, I'm not going to start engines here at the gate, lady, but I appreciate the excitement. I love this livery, man. This HD texturing, real dirty on the outside, just looks awesome. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Alright, we are far enough away now. Would realistically be told we could start now, so engine mode to ignition start. We've got our bleed pressure. Let's go ahead and turn engine number 1, start the chronometer. Got a good avail light there. These engines do seem to start a little bit quicker than in real life. I've been paying close attention to that. I've found that almost exactly it's about 1 minute and 10 seconds for engine start on these engines.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake.
Brake set, clear, disconnect, show me the pin, you have a good day.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
You'll see here as it fire up number 2. we'll keep an eye on the time here. And like I said, consistently in real world, this takes about 1 minute and 10 seconds, almost exactly, to get the changeover. Move that a little bit. There we go. Hello, Ground Point Niner. I like that name. That's a good one. Yeah, there we go. There's the changeover. We're about 48 seconds. And we've got an avail light at 52. So yeah, just nitpicking a little bit. I mean, it probably varies.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have fun up there.
Thank you. This could be a brand new engines for all I know. Maybe they do start quicker. So just splitting hairs. All right. One thing I didn't do because I'm a bad pilot here, as I do single pilot. Should have set our top altitude for the departure procedure. Should have done that before we pushed. That's why I love Xplane. Let me pull up the SID. What did I say we were doing? The Perfum 4 RNAV top altitude is flight level 190. I was off by 1,000 feet. There we go. There's the pin. There's the tug. Let's go ahead and do an after start checklist. That comes back to normal. Arm that. Flaps come to 1. Reset the rudder trim. And we can go ahead and shut off APU bleed and the APU master switch. Adjust the cabin temps. Engine 2 started. After start checklists. Engine anti-ice, it is off. Yellow electric pump is off. Rudder trim 0. After start checklist complete. We're ready to taxi. I'm going to try to adjust the lighting in here. I don't know if it's dark for you guys. Sometimes I do run reshade, and I know it gets a little funky when I do a stream, but oh well, like I said, it's kind of just a testing stream. Anyway, alright, let's go brakes off, and we are ready to taxi. Whoa, player. Easy there. How did I get 1,500 for getting my ATPL license? So, X-Gamer, I actually was a flight instructor for about 1,000 hours. Actually, no, until about 1,200 hours. And then after I reached 1,200 hours of flight instruction, I had enough time to apply for a 135, Part 135 cargo operation. So it didn't require an ATPL. So what that allowed me to do was I went and flew cargo in a bunch of turboprops and stuff like that. And I built up my time that way. And then once I reached, I think I was around 2,000 or 2,500 hours total time, including, 1,000 PIC turbine and all that, I was able to get a job with the airlines, and then I switched airlines, and flew a little bit of corporate, so I've done a little bit of everything. But yeah, initially getting started, I was an instructor first, and then I flew cargo. Alright, we can do what's called a mini brief now. We're just going to brief the box as we see it, make sure everything is set up properly. So we'd go ahead and start here. We're going off runway 25 right on the Perfum 4 RNAV. That should be listed here in the McDo. I don't know why it's not. This is a bug with Toliss. This should say the departure procedure here. Perfum 4 RNAV off runway 25 right. The gross weight is 59.3 kilograms. Flaps config 1+F. Fuel on board is 7.5. Speeds, we read them off the glass only, so we'd have 152, 155. Flexing to 68 degrees Celsius. Initial altitude, flight level 190. We have a standard transition, and then we go ahead and say our first fix off runway 25 right is going to be RNAV to Rebel. No questions? No questions. Good. Alright, I'm trying to taxi and do all the FO job as well here. Alright, let's do our flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. We'll go ahead and check the rudder. So you want to press the little tiller disconnect switch here. I don't have it bound right, I guess. But yeah, we'd go ahead and test the rudders. Full right, full left now. I can't get it all the way over because I've got my rudders bound to the axis. But basically how this tiller works in real life is you press that button down, which... Uh-oh. 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 Houston, we have a problem. Now my tiller is stuck. Alright, let's not mess with that. Huh? But you press the button down and you can check the rudder pedals without moving the nose wheel. It disconnects the linkage, so you can do a full rudder check on the taxi out. Alright, we have a problem now. We cannot taxi. Now I need to, let's see, go here. I think there's something with the tiller I can set. Let's do joystick roll for nose wheel steering. Yes. Save preferences. Alright, so do I have a tiller for... Alright, now we're having some... So we'll just do it this way. We'll actually use the tiller. So I know there's a way to bind this tiller to your joystick so you can taxi the aircraft on the ground without looking like a complete noob like I am doing right now. Alright, I think I can, there we go. I'm holding the tiller and I can still see where I'm going. Alright, so we'll do our before takeoff check down at the runway. We won't do it while we're taxiing. There's a reason this is a 2-crew aircraft. We got our warm-up time. We can reset the clock. Thanks for the kind words, Dean. I appreciate it. You have a setting for the tiller in the option menu. Yeah, Whizball, I'm familiar with that. I set it to my joystick, but I thought for joystick roll. There we go. Yeah, so now we're back in business. I don't have twist on this stick particularly. I'm using a Warthog for the joystick here. Yeah, it's all user error. It's not a bug. It's just me being slightly retarded. If you have a flaps 2 takeoff, when exactly do you retract to flaps 1 plus F? That would be when you reach your flap speed. So you'll see it when we take off. There'll be a little S bug that pops up here. And once you are above that, you can go ahead and retract to flaps 1. Alright, so now that we got our taxi back under control, let's go ahead and do our before takeoff flow. It's going to start over here at the auto brakes to max. Takeoff config checked. Radar PWS comes on. TCAS TARA. We'd make a cabin announcement. Flight attendants prepare for takeoff. Press the forward calls button. And now we are set to go here. Takeoff all green. Cabin ready. I will say we are clear for takeoff. So Spirit Wings 357. RNAV to, where are we going? RNAV to a Rebel, runway 25 right, you're clear for takeoff. The lights will come on. Oh boy, we're having tiller issues again. Manually control. I gotta get that bound properly. I apologize. Oh boy. Who said this guy was a real pilot? It's embarrassing. Alright, runway heading should be about 256. That checks. Make sure our tiller is nice and straight here. It should spring. I wish it would spring back to neutral. Doesn't seem to be doing that. Alright, we are good to go. Let's get a beautiful exterior shot here as we're rolling, taking up runway. Spool it up to 50%. And right to the flex D10. Man flex. SRS. Auto thrust is blue. $80 knots thrust set. It would appear I have a little mesh issue here at the end of the runway, because there is not a giant crater in the real world. I really hope that terrain is not on the runway. Anyway, here we go. V1 will rotate. Whoa, a little bit of a crosswind there. Positive rate, gear up, straight into the command bars. We're navving. So the guy asked about the flaps. There's your S speed. You see that little? Once you're above that, that's your flap retraction. Even though we're only at flaps 1 plus F, if you're at flaps 2, that speed would be a little bit lower. Alright, there is our acceleration altitude. Go ahead and drop the nose back down a little bit. And I wait for a positive trend in the airspeed before I retract the thrust of the climb detent. There we go, positive trend. Thrust climb and auto thrust is now armed. Here comes our flap retraction speed. Flap 0 after takeoff checklist. Real life taxi speed can be anywhere between up to 20 knots, typically between 15 and 20. If it's a really long straight taxiway, you may go, 25 knots. Some taxiways are super long and straight. But my rule of thumb is you only taxi as fast as you want to hit something, so. Unless I'm an Xplane. Then sometimes I just do taxiway takeoffs. Because why not? Whoa! That's interesting. We're gonna have to take care of that. We have a brakes hot ECAM. We're leveling at 7,000. Let's fly the aircraft first. Meet our restriction here. Autopilot 1, please. Okay, autopilot is in. We are alt constraint SAR. What do we got? Nav IR3 fault. Whoa, brakes hot. If prefer, landing gear down for cooling. Brake fans on. Alright, so clear the caution. Brake fans on. Our speed is at 250. I'm going to go ahead and select speed so we don't accelerate. Let's lower the landing gear. What do we got? We got 300 C. Oh, it just went over it barely. Alright, so the gear is down. We're cooling the landing gear. So here's a got you. Retraction for the landing gear is 220 knots. I'd lowered the gear at 250, so this is a thing that will happen that we train for, is now we have to actually slow down so we can retract the landing gear. Even though the auto thrust isn't doing a very good job here, we're over speeding 250, but that's nothing we can do about that right now. So we still have the landing gear down. I got to slow to 220 knots before I can retract them. This is where knowing your aircraft and your limitations come into play. They'll try to get you in the sim with the exact same situation that we just had. A brake's hot on takeoff. Yeah, okay, lower the landing gear below 250. And you think, oh, the brakes are nice and cool now, bring the gear up. But if you bring the gear up at 250, you just exceeded a limitation on the aircraft. And it's the actuators of the gear doors that can't withstand the speed, so that's why we got to slow down to 220 before retraction. Here we go, 220. We can go ahead and bring the gear back up into the wheel wells now. Wow, this solar for the scenery looks amazing. Alright, so our gear is back up. Now we've got another issue. We've got nav IR3 fault. Alright, clear nav, clear nav. We have a status message. Read status. IR may be avail in attitude mode. Okay. Clear status. Alright, let's get back to flying the aircraft now. So our gear is up. We can turn the brake fans back off. Flaps are up. After takeoff checklist is complete. We're going to go ahead and push back for managed speed now so we can comply with the rest of the departure procedure. I just cannot get enough of this. This is the Fork Boy ortho scenery. It is quite stunning. This looks very real. I did have a little terrain mesh issue down there by the airport, but that's something I can sort out later. This is Henderson, Nevada, right here. I've flown in there many times as an instructor. Alright, so we're climbing back out. Let's make sure the airplane is doing what it's supposed to be doing. At or above 11,000, that hit me. That's good. We're above 10,000 feet. I kind of missed that call out. That would be lights coming off here. In the States, anyway. It varies on where you fly. The lights are off. We ding the flight attendants. That lets them know they're able to get up and get on with their service. Alright, since we have an IR fault, which I did not plan this at all, but it's kind of cool. I'm going to pull up my real-world procedures here, or the COM2 abnormal, and we're going to see what it tells us to do here. So, if you've cleared your fault message, which you're supposed to do, clear the ECAM, get everything done that the ECAM tells you to do, fly the airplane, then we go to the COM. If we want to bring up that last message, because we have to look up what the message said. If you press the recall button, press and hold, it should bring back our fault. There you go. So it just brought back the fault, nav IR3. So now I can use this to reference my cockpit manual procedures to find this exact fault. So I'm going to go ahead and look under the abnormal emergency procedure section. This is under navigation, and this is nav IR3 fault. Here we go, nav IR3 fault. Attitude heading switch. Okay, here we go. Nav IR3 fault. Single IR fault. In case of simultaneous ADR and IR, same ADIRU failure, apply the ADR fault procedure before the IR fault procedure. We do not have a simultaneous ADR and IR failure, so we're just going to apply this procedure. IR3 fault. Attitude heading switch. If IR3 in use, put it to norm. Which it is in normal. The line is not displayed on the ECAM. IR may be available in attitude mode. So we have Cat 3 single. We can't do a Cat 3 dual, so we can't do an auto land. GPWS terrain fault if it was IR1, which it's not. So basically, as long as it's not IR1 or IR2, it looks like it's really no effect. Nothing was going to adversely affect us on this flight. I'm going to go ahead and try something. I'm going to go ahead and put this in attitude mode. Nope. Alright. So we write that up into maintenance and have to do that. Oh, we passed transition altitude standard. And Spirit 357, climb and maintain flight level 270. Climb and maintain 270 for Spirit 357. Push for managed climb. And we are on our way up. So, real nothing we can do to clear that fault in the air right now. It doesn't affect us. That looks real. Alright, since this is a relatively short flight, I'm going to go ahead and start looking at our arrival as well and making sure we are set up for the arrival into Phoenix. So we're going into Phoenix on the Bruiser 1 RNAV. Pull up the approach plate here on my iPad. And we can set up there. Let's go into plan mode. Alright, so it starts at Watra, and we meet our first restriction at Weiner, which is mandatory flight level 290. However, our cruise altitude was 27, so unless ATC specifically told us that we need to meet 29, they would change our altitude. If not, we're not going to worry about that one. What we could actually do is clear out the altitude constraint at Weiner. Alright, so after Weiner, we go over Drake, between 29 and 24,000 feet. Mayer, it's our first speed restriction, 270 knots, between 19 and flight level 250. Now, this actually should list the altitude bracket. On the chart, it shows between 25 and 19. Actually, if I go here to constraint mode, it shows between 19 and 25, so it's in the box, but it should also be depicted here on the ND. You should have the window 19 and 25 on the ND. Alright, Bruiser, 250 knots. Then we're going to branch off on the transition to runway 8, which will actually take us out to Bidwill, NC 230 F-ball, Pigskin, and then the transition into Tillman, which will lead us into the ILS to runway 8. So there's a manual leg there, which is supposed to be there because on the star it is not connected, so it's not connected in the box, but as pilots we know, hey, after Tillman we're probably going to be vectored onto the ILS. So now I can look at my ILS for runway 8. Final approach fix was up, which is right here in the box at 3,000 feet. Alright, so that's in there. So we've checked our flight plan. Now let's go ahead and look at our RadNav page. We're going to go ahead and clear out Las Vegas, let it auto-tune. Come to our progress page here. I'm going to set up Phoenix, runway 08. Perf data. Alright, the descent page. If you've watched some of my tutorial videos, I've covered this pretty thoroughly. This is your descent speed, and since we're going at cost index 99, it's quite fast, 340 knots at 80 Mach. Because we're coming down on an arrival that has an initial speed restriction of 270 knots, I'm going to go ahead and alter that. So I'm going to go ahead and put 270 at 78 Mach. So what's going to happen now is once I start my descent, we're going to stay at 78 Mach until reaching the transition into indicated, and we'll start slowing back to 270 knots. That way we can get our first speed restriction on the arrival. Alright, time to bring up the weather for Phoenix. Taking a while here on my iPad. Alright, we have a brand new METAR just came out with a QNH of 29085. Temperature is 28. Wind is 120 at 6 knots. Alright, our MDA for the approach, I'll look at my approach right here, we've got 1368 MSL. That'll bring us 250 feet above the ground. Alright, perf data has been set. Go around speeds are right there if we want to look at those. Fuel, we've got plenty of extra gas. Secondary flight plan, can't access that, or we can't function that in the Toliss, unfortunately. And then ATC COM, what we do, we'd go ahead and send all that performance data that I just put in the box. I'd send that to, or I'd send that off, and it would come back with landing data, landing distances, and all sorts of good stuff. So right now our box is set. We can go ahead and push the LS push buttons. We're going to do auto brakes low, flaps full, full reverse, and manual braking. So our box is completely set up for the approach now. We've got just a few minutes until reaching our top of descent. I apologize if the volume levels are a little distorted. I'm going to be rewatching the stream to kind of fine-tune.
User joined your channel.
Kind of fine-tune what's going on. Oh, somebody joined my TeamSpeak. What the hell?
Disconnected.
Get rid of that. Yeah, that was Bert joining. Alright, let's take a look here. We are closing in. So I'm not really going to go over too much of the in-depth stuff here. If you guys have questions, just pop them into the comments. I've covered almost all this on my professional series and tutorial series on my channel. But you can see here our top of descent arrow just about 40 miles out in front of us there. So about now, let's see, we're 142 miles. This is strange. I don't know if this is a new bug or what, but within 250 miles, the MDA should pop up here on the glass in our column 4. That's kind of a prompt to say, hey, you're within 250 miles. Be a good time to brief the approach. So I pull out the approach plate here that I have, and I go ahead and brief it. I won't brief it out loud. I don't think you guys want to hear that. But we are considered briefed and prepared for the approach. Make a descent announcement, and we're expecting to hear something from air traffic control with regards to our altitude. So most likely we'd hear something along the lines of Spirit Wings 357 descend via the Bruiser 1 RNAV arrival, runway 08 transition. So what that means is, okay, we are cleared to descend via the arrival with all the altitude constraints and speed constraints that we just looked at and verified were in the box. So we'll go up here to the altitude selector and we'll dial in the bottom altitude. So the bottom altitude on the arrival was 6,000 feet at Pigskin. So I'm going to go ahead and dial in 6,000. And about 5 miles prior to the top of descent, I'll push for managed descent mode, and the aircraft will follow the descent profile on the arrival. Hopefully. It should. And if you ever want to just check your distance here, come to your prog page. Oops, sorry, your perf page. We can see 21 miles to top of descent. Another thing to keep note too is that once you start your descent, you cannot change your managed speeds unless you recruise the aircraft. So make sure your descent speeds are programmed that the way you want them to be before you start down, or else you'll have to be in selected speed, or you can recruise the aircraft. That's interesting. My lower E-cam just went bye-bye. What the heck is going on here? That would be not very good. Lower E-cam just went out. No warning. Go ahead and put terrain mode up. I'm going to look for a quick procedure here for ECAM disappearing. I'm not planning any of these faults either. This is all just kind of happening. Go figure, it happened on the first live stream. Alright, and we're getting some clouds. That'll really start to melt the CPU. Alright, we're about 5 miles now. We'll go ahead and start down. Alright, so we are in speed descent mode. Make sure the transponder is in below mode. And the aircraft is going to slow and descend via the... Mr. Shiki, do you have faults configured? Yes, I do. Because I think it makes it a little bit more exciting to have some faults. Haven't had hardly any at all though until right now. So should have bought the Flight Factor. Yeah, I do have the Flight Factor 320. I'll be doing a stream in that one here pretty soon as well. I do fly both of them. All right, what do we got here? Decent. This is where it'd be really nice to have two pilots, because they'd have the other guy working on the ECAM failure and one guy just flying the airplane. If this were a real situation, we had a complete ECAM failure like that, we'd probably coordinate with ATC saying, hey, we need to get on the ground. Let's go ahead and shorten this approach up. Depending, we may or may not call it an emergency. Depends on what the comm says to do here, which I'm trying to look up. Information systems. So I'm going through my book here. I'm not seeing anything yet. A fault like this is probably the most difficult to assess because we don't have an ECAM message, so we can't just look for it from the ECAM warning. We have to kind of sift through supplemental procedures and stuff that you're familiar with. The only thing that I'm familiar with that is related to this would be something referred to as a latch failure. But that has to do with the FMGCs and not so much the lower ECAM. I mean, it's not critical. It's just our lower ECAM, obviously. But you can see that it's definitely failed, and it actually is behaving like it should. So if I pull up the status page, it defaults to the upper ECAM. So it's nice to see that that's modeled correctly. Met our first restriction there below 29 at Drake. We are 270 knots approaching Mayer. It should be below 25,000 feet, which we already are. So that's good. We are on our descent. Everything is looking good. Reduce navigation performance. We don't have any of that. Let's check here. Oh, nav actually is high. GPS is still primary. So at this point, probably make a decision to say, all right, let's fly the aircraft and let's just get on the ground. We'll write it up in maintenance. We already have an issue with our IR fault. Try to recover the attitude side of it anyway. So I can also flip, if I wanted to see, both the same here, I come to my switching pages, or my switching knobs, and I can switch the ECAM for what should be down here. I can put it up here where my ND was, or I could throw it over to the FO side. That way we could have it. But I mean, like I said, this is not a very high priority or a high threat situation, so we're going to just leave it in normal for now, and we'll deal with it on the ground. Yeah, McShiggity, I think I just saw your comment. But yeah, the redundancy for the ECAM, there's multiple redundancies. So without doing any switching, I can pull up any of the status pages that I would use on the lower ECAM. It will just appear on the upper ECAM now. Or like I said, you go over here to the ND transfer page, and now I can put what's supposed to be on the lower ECAM over here on my ND, and I can go through the pages, as well. So there is redundancy, low threat item right now. We're going to just keep it in normal mode and get the aircraft on the ground. Since we are, within 100 miles from the field, it shouldn't be too big of an issue. But definitely a failure, and definitely something that's got to be written up in the maintenance book. Never did get to turn the seatbelt sign off that flight, so I'm sure everybody's going to be grumpy when they get off the airplane. But did you die? Alright, Mayor, 270 knots below 250. We are going to comply with that, no problem. Our altimeter on the ground, what did I say? It was 2985. We approach our transition altitude of 18,000 feet here in the States. We'll set 2985. And approach checklist. Briefing's complete. ECAM status. Checked. Associated. Minimums, I got 1368 set. Auto brakes are off. Engine anti-ice 1 and 2 is off. And our altimeter is 2985 set, passing 18.3. He would verify that on his side. Check. Approach checklist completed. Approaching Bruiser now. That's our last fix before we transition off to the runway 8 transition. 250 knots between 17 and 13,000 feet. So this giant pink dot here would actually be much smaller than the real aircraft, at least on ours anyway. I don't know if it's a software issue or not. But this isn't the magenta deceleration point that we've talked about in the past. This is just a, well, it is a deceleration point, but it's not the big D or the magenta D that will slow you down to VAP. This is just saying we're going to decelerate to 250 at reaching, just prior to Bruiser, which is what we want. Right now we're at 270. You can see our econ descent window here. Target is 270, plus or minus, what was that, 15, 20 knots on either side. So sometimes we'll just select speed. It's a little bit more accurate. But then that can mess up your descent profile a little bit. Going through the clouds here. What do we got for outside air temp? Ooh, 7 degrees. So yeah, let's go ahead and get our ice on. Oh, I'll do that, and we're out. Go. Man, look at that beautiful scenery coming into Phoenix. That looks pretty darn real. I've done this flight numerous times, coming in here. So Lake Pleasant out here to the right. Looks like we're doing stuff here. We've slowed to 250. Here's Bruiser. We're transitioning now for the runway 8 transition. Again, if you want to look at the chart or follow along, we are doing the Bruiser 1 RNAV arrival. BRUSR 1 to Phoenix Sky Harbor. So another fun fact, the gentleman who was asking about where I got my time as a flight instructor, it was at this airport right here. It's just Deer Valley Airport. Spent a lot of time in the pattern over there teaching students. Alright, bid will 250 below 12,000 feet. We're going to comply with that, no problem. You guys want to see a hand flowing approach, or you want to see a autopilot? We can't do an auto land because our, can we do an auto land? No, we can't do an auto land because of our IR fault here. Let's see. No, we could still do an auto land. It's just IR 3. Hand fly? Of course. Make me look dumb. Alright, we'll hand fly it. What the hell? Auto thrust or no auto thrust? Here comes 10,000 feet. We'll go ahead and turn on our Chinese speed brakes, or landing lights. You can see, and that's not to be offensive, it's just what we refer them as. You see they pop out here from the wing root. And actually in the aircraft you can really hear the drag. Alright, at 10,000 feet, we're going to go ahead and select speed. I know everybody gets all up in arms like, oh, if you keep it managed, blah, blah, blah. Our procedure is to select speed below 10,000 feet. We're going to activate and confirm the approach phase. This is just how we fly it. I know we've got 230 knots at NC, so let's go ahead and dial it back to 230. And we'd make a call, flight attendants prepare for landing. Q8, oh man, that's awesome to see you here, man. I love your channel too, man. You actually helped me big time installing all the Fork Boy. So I watch a lot of your vids, man. Maybe one day we can do a live stream together, a multi-crew. I think that'd be fun if you wanted to. I think you actually are the first YouTuber that got me transitioned to Xplane, now that I think about it. Alright, we can see NC below 10, 230 knots. Our speed is looking good. Alright, there was our constraint star. There should have been a notification here on the FMA saying constraint star leveled at 8,000 feet there, but because it was between 10 and 8. Next fix is football. 210 knots, so let's go ahead and manually reduce the speed at 210. Might need a little bit of drag to help us get on speed. Let's go ahead and bring that speed brake out. And we should have another constraint star here. It doesn't seem to be modeled, but that's not a big deal. We know why we're leveling. Actually leveled high there, 7,500. And as we get close to the end of the arrival, here in the States, it's not uncommon for us to be vectored off, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that here for us. So they say, what are we, Spear Wings 357, fly heading 200, descend and maintain 4,000. So we've got our triple chirp because we've got a reversion. We're now in thrust idle, open descent heading. So now we know we're being vectored for the ILS, but we've got this big mess here. We still have our arrival in the way. So how we clean that up is we come to our flight plan here. We go direct function. We know was up is our final approach fix, so I'm going to select was up. Our radial, and we basically want to take our final approach course and get the reciprocal. So our final approach course is 078. We flip that around. +2 -2 rule would be 258. Put that in the radial in. We have a nice extended center line here. Insert. Make sure you reselect your heading so you don't turn inbound. And now we have a nice extended final center line. And we got nice clean distances for our DME if we want to reference that. Danny Blizzard, yeah, secondary flight plan would be nice. I'd like to see a little bit of some cleanup too with some of the FMGC stuff, just like our deceleration. Like I don't have a bottom descent arrow here. I should have that. A few little small things. I know they're working on it. We could talk about that here in a minute after we get on the ground. All right, approaching 5,000 for 4,000. I'll vector myself. Spear Wings 357, descend and maintain a 3,000. Turn left heading 190. Reduce speed to 180 knots. So, not uncommon to get all three at once here. 180 knots. Here's our speed column. VFE next, that little equal sign there. -10. Let's go ahead and get flaps 1 out. Extend the flaps. And I'm going to go ahead and get the speed brakes out because a lot of times when you get vectored in like this and they try to shorten up your approach, you can get a tendency, there is a tendency to get high and fast, so got to stay ahead of the airplane. Spear Wings 357, turn left heading 140, maintain 3,000 till established, cleared ILS runway 08 approach. So heading 140, 3,000 feet till established, cleared ILS runway 08 approach. So since we're cleared for the approach, automatically we go approach mode and AP2. So now we've got our glide slope blue is armed, localizer blue is armed, Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1 +2. We are below VFE next, right there, that little equal sign, -10. Let's go ahead and extend flaps 2. And approaching 4,000 for 3,000. So for optimized energy approach management and fuel efficiency, our procedures here where I work, 2,000 feet above touchdown, 180 knots, flaps 2. So we're at already 180 knots. We're at flaps 2. We're approaching 2,000 feet above touchdown. Touchdown zone elevation is 1,100. We'll just call it 1,200 feet. Make it easy. So at 2,200, we know we're 2,000 above touchdown. Oop, speed brake's still out. That's my fault. Alright, here comes our localizer. Localizer star. Localizer's been captured. So we're roughly 2,000 feet above touchdown zone. Flaps 2, 180 knots. No need to throw the gear down now or extra flaps. We've got plenty of time to slow down and be on speed before touchdown while saving fuel and optimizing our energy. I know in the UK they're very strict, or no, sorry, not just the UK. In Europe, it's very uncommon to be vectored off of an arrival and fly assigned speeds. Whereas, from what I understand, they fly their stars almost 100% all the time, complying with speed restrictions, etc., etc. Here in the States, it's definitely a little bit more vectored and hand flown approaches and things like that. So just to make it simple across the board, flaps 2, 180 knots, 2,000 feet above touchdown, and we're always going to be in the same spot every time. Get on speed. So, all right, our missed approach altitude will be 5,000 feet. So as soon as we capture the glide slope, we'll set our missed approach altitude. And as soon as we reach the final approach fix, I'm going to go ahead and manage speed. So we'll slow to our VREF and gear down. But I don't want to do that until we start our descent because it's kind of loud flying with the gear down, trying to maintain altitude. So just pilot technique. Here, glide slope star, push for managed speed. Gear comes down. When the gear comes down, the speed brakes go armed. And let's go ahead and dial in our missed approach altitude of 5,000 feet below. VFE next minus 10. Flaps 3. There is was up 3,000 checks. Glide slope captured. VFE next minus 10. Flaps full. A landing checklist. Cabin crew advised. Auto thrust is in speed mode for now. ECAM memo. Landing. All green. Landing checklist is completed. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and disengage the autopilot here. I'm going to hand fly this one down. Oh, scared me. I had a little hiccup there on the Xplane. Thought my game crashed. That would not be very fun. Alright, so I'm going to hand fly the approach. Two ways to hand fly on this. You can fly it with the flight directors, but you want to be following the flight directors. We never have the autopilot off and the flight directors on and not follow them. So if the flight directors are on, follow your flight directors. If you want to turn the flight directors off, that's fine, but make sure you turn both of them off. All right, we're on speed, looks like 130, so 133-ish knots. Stable. .500 stable, sync 700. Runway's in sight. We are landing.
500.
I sure hope my landing was better than the one I had last night.
400.
Definitely felt like the space shuttle landed.
300.
Land green. We normally wouldn't announce that unless we're doing a Cat 3.
200. 100.
So we didn't have a minimums call. We are at low minimums now.
40. 30. Retard. 10. 5.
Not too shabby, not too good either. Oh, it is. Are we not in reverse? What's going on here? There we go. That was a little weird. Back on center line, 70 knots, approaching. We'll come to idle. Oh, I know what it was. I pressed the wrong button for my reverse thrust. So that's why it started yelling at me again. 60 knots. So definitely not my best landing there. Clear the runway and do an after landing checklist. Oh. It's kind of hard to do this all one-handed here. Go ahead and fire up the APU. I do have to fix this teller thing. My nose wheel steering is really jacked up there. I apologize for that. Caused us to get off center line a little bit as well on landing, but good thing this isn't a check ride. Nice stop there, buddy. Alright, brakes set. Seatbelt sign off. And we need to, since we don't have our ECAM, let's go ahead and pull it up here manually. Waiting for our APU gen to take over. Taxiing into the gate like that, super fast off the runways, so we gotta wait for engine cool down. We'll pretend that we waited for 3 minutes. APU's available. Killing engine 1, or I'm sorry, engine 2, and engine 1. Here comes the jet bridge. No smoking can come off. And below 10%, should be retracted. Below 10% and 1, the beacon light comes off. And it's hot here in Phoenix. Get that APU bleed going, get the cabin nice and cool. And one of the most important things, make sure you finish your flight in X economy. Uh-oh. There we go. Alright. Alright, let me catch up here with the comments. Ooh, another thing I want to, before I look at the comments here, is wheels hot. That's awesome. I love to see that. That was low brakes. I didn't touch them very much, and we're still nice and toasty. We're skyrocketing. It actually looks like I was on that right brake a little bit more. There might be something going on with one of my bindings causing that right brake to drag a little bit. Also why we might have had that hot brake on takeoff. But I'll have to check my settings and stuff. It's, like I said, it's been a while since I've been in Xplane, so I'm trying to get all my stuff reset up here, my joystick set up, my pedals and all that. So I do apologize for a lot of the amateurish mistakes, but good learning experience there. Brakes on. We'd also call for brake fans here on the ground in Phoenix. But we're at the gate. We're good to roll. We can deplane. What's missing from the Toliss A319 that really should be working? Let's get back to that. So yeah, the secondary flight plan is something that I would like to see functioning. I know the Flight Factor's got it functioning, but I understand what the developers say about it. I mean, they're focusing on other parts of the aircraft that need to be completed more so than that, because how many people are going to use the secondary flight plan? I don't really know. I mean, I know I sure would use it. We used it all the time in the real aircraft, but there are some other things with the FMGC and just some symbology on the ND that I would like to see fixed at a higher priority than the secondary. So I can kind of agree with them on that. It is a bummer that it doesn't work, but anyway. How touchy are the controls? Are they like the Flight Factor, or they feel more like the 737? You know, uh, I really haven't had an issue with the Flight Factor or the Toliss with controls. I'll let you look at my joystick settings here. Um, I use the Warthog stick for the Airbus, especially because I mean the Warthog stick feels. I mentioned this before, almost exactly like a real Airbus stick. If you had the right grip on here, the tension that stick gives you is very similar to the real thing. This is kind of my curve situation that I have right here. If you want to look at that, and for pitch, it's kind of what that looks like. And for, let's see, I know control sensitivity. So this is what I have on right now, and I know there's a lot of talk about changing these, and with the fly-by-wire you should have them off or have them on. This is what I use. Obviously my pedals are really cheap old ones, that's why I've got quite a bit of stability on the rudders. But this setting right here I seem to use, I like it. I really don't have any issues. I think it feels realistic. I don't feel any confliction between the fly-by-wire modeling and any stability augmentation. So whether or not it's recommended, I'm just telling you what I use, what I personally use for my Warthog stick, and this seems to work just fine. I know for a while there the Flight Factor was having an issue with when you rotate, you would go right into alpha floor, and that has more to do with your V-speeds not being correct or being too low. So hopefully that clears up that question for you a little bit. So, all right, guys, I appreciate y'all for watching the stream, and I hopefully will be doing a couple more of these here. Let me know what you want to see done. I don't know how many videos I'll be doing in the near future. I do have a baby on the way this month, so a lot's going to be changing around here, but I'm still very passionate about Xplane and Flight Sim, and I can't wait to check in with you guys again. So thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time.